Hi, everyone. I'm trying this as something of an experiment, and it's a little bit strange to be talking to my own cell phone sitting on a somewhat strange looking tripod, but let's just have a go of it, and we'll see if this helps. This first message is going to be about administrative matters in the field of the class, and I think I've already covered this pretty well, but um, hearing it from me as I sit in my office with Martin Luther King and the Harlem Renaissance and a whole, a couple of bookcases of books in my not so trusty computer next to me uh, is, as I say, it's an experiment. Now, let me, in about 5 minutes, walk you through where we stand. First of all, Philosophy 336 is a brand new class. It has been given in one form or another for a very long time. And quite frankly, I've had it in my sights for many, many years, decades actually, as a course that, as it was originally constructed, I didn't want to teach. And the reason for that was because it was basically a current affairs class. And there was no philosophical content whatsoever at any level. There was just none. It was just basically a bunch of articles about what was going on in the world. And I thought that that was problematic, and it's not the kind of thing that I really wanted to be involved with. About 6 months ago or so, 6 or 7 months ago, the opportunity arose for me to completely rewrite the class pretty much as I wanted it to be. And so I immediately said yes to that and proceeded to create the class as it stands. Let me briefly and concisely explain what that is. As I said, the first thing I wanted to do was basically strip it of most of the current affairs material. It's not that I think that it's a bad idea to have current affairs material in a class like this. I think it's fine. But what I didn't like was there must have been 60 articles, 70 articles, and the quality was extremely varied, uh, with the average being pretty mediocre. And the other thing, as I'm saying, that I didn't like is there was no philosophical content. So what I did was this. I basically got all the busy work out of the class, and I chose a handful of articles that I took to be representative of positive directions in these topics. Number one, as you can hear, this noise in the background. And I've kind of done this on purpose. I have my door open. I could close the door, but this is kind of atmospheric. It's a real college here, and this is where I spend my Mondays. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken representative content and used it as the focus. Now, individual instructors can change that content, and for us, if you can find or if you know of articles that we can replace or supplement the ones that you're seeing, that's fine. We can easily do that. Also, if there's like breaking news, excuse me, I'm still fighting off a laryngitis from a couple of weeks ago. We can make changes to that content very easily. Okay, that's half the course. You don't even see that part of the course until the third week of the class. The first 2 weeks of the class begins a focus on philosophical material. It's a philosophy course. It should have philosophical material. In addition, I think the Western philosophical tradition has a lot to contribute to discussions on contemporary issues. So that's why that's there. Now, I very carefully chose that material. I didn't want to assume that anyone was a philosophy major. I see that we have a few philosophy majors in the class, and that's great. However, you can see here, let me say it because maybe it's not so obvious. What I've done is choose roughly 8 or 10 relatively short, extremely important texts that will serve as our foundation and a guide in our course. And the first 2 weeks of the class is just about the cave and just about the apology, which kind of serves as the basic framework for the rest of the tradition. The whole 3,000 years kind of follows in those pathways in some way or another. Now, obviously, this is a very complex story, and I don't want to pretend that it's simple because it's anything but simple. Nevertheless, I think you can see what I'm doing and seeing what I'm attempting. In doing this, that is basically a biped class with strong, good current events materials on the one hand, and philosophical stuff on the other was an experiment. Now, I've taught this class a couple of times, and students really liked it a lot. I was a little surprised. I thought that, I imagined that there might be questions and issues, which I'll talk to you about as we get to know each other a little bit, sort of problems that imperfection, shall I say, in this. But for now, I think it's, fine to start as we are. Okay, so that's your course just got revamped. I ditched a course that I thought was really not a good class and replaced it by one that I think is maybe not perfect, but it's getting in the right direction. I will take your feedback on this class very seriously, and in the 8th week of the class, kind of, we'll work on it together. I really respect the students who take this class, their reflection on the class. I've had really good discussions. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, the second thing that I want to bring up is something that I've been writing you about, probably until you're sick of it, and that is the no stress thing. And I could write a book. I probably should write a book on the problems in academic stress. For our purposes, basically, I try to eliminate all the stress and the anxiety I possibly can in this class. And I think those of you who want to kind of analyze the class will see that that's exactly what I've done. Is that the due dates are flexible. I don't overassign. The questions themselves are. I don't exactly want to call them straightforward, but they're not the kinds of things that create anxiety. It's important to think about these questions and think hard and formulate your ideas very carefully and, if I may say, very elegantly. But in terms of staying up all night, you're not going to have to do that. And I'm very proud of that. That's what I want in my class. I don't want a stressed, maniacal class, conveyor belt course. All those things are things that I lived through as an undergraduate. I hated it. I went to big state, cheap schools, and prestigious, but still, the huge classes as an undergraduate. And then when I did my graduate work in France, the whole academic world is very different there, and so that aspect of education went away from me, and I really liked the more, I don't know what to call it, the more aristocratic, relaxed approach to education, where the students have more responsibility and the stuff is not force-fed. Okay, so everything is relaxed. Practically, this means 2 or 3 things. Look at the time, but I don't want to go over 10 minutes because, again, you don't want to have to stare at me for 2 hours. Okay, better to look at Dr. King behind me here. So practically what this means for you is that you don't have fixed due dates. I have no notice. I have no penalty system. In my life, I've never had to say, well, you lose 2% for late papers and stuff like that. I just think that that's childish, and I don't do that. So it's best to stay on track. There are dates out there, but there's no penalty for not holding to them. So, okay, so that's that. The assignments are pretty straightforward as well. Okay, so that's no anxiety. One of my great goals in this class is that we're done by Monday or Tuesday of the 8th week, when you're especially stressed out with other exams. The other thing is I don't shut down the course. I always give a couple of grace days at the end. So if you're really, really swamped with your other classes, you can just give me your stuff on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. That's really fine. Okay, so that's the other, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about was the course itself. The second thing was about the no stress theory. And then the third thing is has to do with your approach to the class. What I would do if I were you is I would scroll through the whole class and take a look at those videos in week 5 and 6 and 7, or 6 and 7, I forget off the top of my head. And maybe even watch a couple, even though we've not got there yet. And take a look at the questions down the road, and look finally at all the questions, including the final, the three assignments, assignment 1, assignment 2, and assignment 3. It will give you a very good feel for the class. The second assignment is the only one that's kind of traditional and a little bit rigid. The first one and the third one are very, basically creative things where you can say anything thoughtful. Okay, and so that's what I would do if I were you. And I would do the course as a whole. I wouldn't micromanage the class and say, oh, I've got to do this on Monday and this on Tuesday and this on Wednesday. Follow your own tempo here and just basically listen. Have fun with the class. If you botch a paper, or if you're unhappy with the paper, as far as I'm concerned, you can just redo the thing. I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing. So I'm very relaxed about that. I basically want to have dialogue with everyone, and I want this to be a really good learning experience about ideas in the 21st century. Okay, this got a little bit too long, but as I said, it's an experiment. Sorry, I'm still coldy and laryngitis-y and all that stuff. As I've said, I'm in metropolitan Washington. There's 11 million people within 50 miles of here, and it's a place where there's a lot of sickness, and we've just had 2 major snowstorms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I wish you a really good class. I know, I was forgetting something. 301-728-5175. Just text me, okay? I have 2 kids in college. They always text me for the obvious reasons. Dad, I need a new book. Dad, I need a new whatever. So I have a long queue of text messages. Before I go to bed every night, I just work through them. It's the fastest way to get in contact. I'm happy to phone you wherever you are, whether you're in China, Europe, and on and on. I'm just used to using my phone as a global device. Now it's also a TV camera. Okay, so have a great class. I'm here if you need me, everyone. Next time I will have a remote, so I won't have to do this inelegant lean. Okay.